Hi, and welcome here to my office. A little bit of show and tell here. I've got this bookshelf organized in a little bit different way, and using the bear claw back scratcher to point things out. On this second shelf down here, I have books that I consider classics. They're just books that are kind of the top of their field. They were seminal books in their field, things like The Fifth Discipline and Richard Foster's Celebration of Discipline and Brian Tracy's Goals. Books like that, quite a wide variety. That's not by subjects, just the fact they're classics. Up here though, I've got a bunch of books that I consider the most significant books in my life. Books that change the way I think, books that change the way I act, books that really made a difference for me. And you'll see there's all kinds of different ones, books on theology and personal development and evangelism and good old Charles Finney revival lectures and a preaching book, those kind of things, my Bible. But perhaps the most surprising book on the entire shelf is this one here. It's called The Innovators Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. And it's a book about business, but the basic thesis of the book is that it's virtually impossible for existing organizations of any kind to innovate in a revolutionary way, in a disruptive way, because doing so actually breaks the organization, breaks the business. See, businesses are good at innovating internally, calling sustaining innovations, things that help them do what they're doing better, but they're very difficult. Organizations of all kinds are very difficult doing disruptive innovations, things that do things the same thing maybe in a completely different way or completely different things that challenge their way of doing things. And as I was reading this book many years ago now, I remember just thinking about church and evangelism and ministry and just the way even Christians engage with the world, that we have our way of doing things, and it's very difficult for us to do things differently. It's very difficult for us to change even our thinking. Jesus actually said much the same thing in a much simpler way in 3 of the Gospels, what we know as the parable of the wineskins. And in Luke chapter 6, we read this. They said to Jesus, "John's disciples often fast and pray, and so do the disciples of the Pharisees. But yours go on eating and drinking." Jesus answered, "Can you make the friends of the bridegroom fast while he's with them? But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them. In those days they will fast." He told them this parable. "No one tears a piece out of a new garment to patch an old one. If they do, they will have torn the new garment, and the patch from the new will not match the old. And people do not pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the new wine will burst the skins, the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, new wine must be poured into new wineskins. And none of you, after drinking old wine, wants the new, for you say, the old is better." He's basically saying it's really hard to change. New patch, old clothes doesn't work. New wine, old wineskins doesn't work. Things need to change in a dramatic way from time to time. In fact, that book, The Innovators Dilemma, was really, because of that kind of thinking, quite seminal for me in thinking about 12 Church and the kind of changes that need to happen to be more effective in evangelism and disciple making. But on the personal level here, on the devotional level, here's the question. When was the last time you changed your mind? When was the last time you had a process of thinking that was completely turned around? It's very difficult to do. In fact, it's almost impossible to do, because changing your mind isn't just a matter of being humble and learning new information. No, we have this thing called different cognitive biases. One is called confirmation bias, where we have an idea, and so we are really good at seeing things that reinforce that idea and filtering out things that don't fit. I mean, and Facebook and things like that actually help us, because Facebook gives us what we like and kind of filters out what we don't like. And so we start seeing the same thing, hearing from the same people. It turns into what's called an echo chamber, where what you're saying is what you're hearing, and nothing ever challenges your thinking. And that just makes it even harder to change our minds. So again, devotionally, here's the question. To maybe have the courage to ask the Lord if there's something He wants you to change your mind on. Something you're adamant about, something maybe you believed for a long time, something you maybe fight about even on Facebook. And I would encourage doing that with the end of Psalm 139, which is a self-examination passage. But pray it in relation to this issue of changing your mind. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me. Is there anywhere you want me to change my mind? And lead me in the way everlasting. Yes, changing our mind is hard. But with the Spirit and the renewing of the Word, it's possible. Let's be open to the Lord changing our minds the way He wants them changed, because that's a part of making us more like Jesus.